Island says you're wanted with it.
V5 was you a rapper? You said a rapper. I got facts about these, man. Hey, man, I'm on your ass.
The prison world isn't exactly known for holding secrets. But when it comes to Pooh Shiesty, the latest reports coming straight from the inside are raising eyebrows across the hip-hop world. Fans, haters, and industry insiders alike are buzzing after shocking details about his behavior behind bars surfaced. And the implications could be huge, not just for his reputation, but for his career and even his legal standing. Sources close to the facility say that the rapper, once known for his street credibility and rising chart-topping hits, is facing challenges in adjusting to the strict routines and high-stress environment of prison life. While some insiders claim he's keeping to himself, others insist that he's involved in confrontations that could lead to disciplinary action, painting a picture that's far from the public image fans have built up over the years. This revelation has ignited a wildfire of speculation on social media. Clips from fellow inmates, whispers from correctional officers, and inside accounts shared anonymously are all fueling the conversation. Everybody wants to know, is Pooh Shiesty struggling to adapt, or is he creating chaos behind bars? And more importantly, how will this affect the connections he's made on the outside, his collaborations, and his plans for the future once he's released? Every post, every leak, every subtle nod from people in the know seems to be hinting at a side of Pooh Shiesty that no one expected, a version of the rapper that could completely shift the narrative around him. But the story isn't just about drama. Behind the headlines, this is a tale of power, survival, and strategy. Prison isn't just a place to serve time, it's a battleground, and those who fail to navigate its politics can pay dearly. Industry insiders are watching closely because the consequences of any misstep don't stay behind bars. They ripple out into the music world, the streets, and the court of public opinion. And with Pooh Shiesty being one of hip-hop's most talked about young talents, every move he makes is under a microscope. In the next few minutes, we're going to break down everything that's been reported about Pooh Shiesty's prison behavior. From alleged altercations to surprising alliances, from moments that could make or break his reputation to the subtle strategies he might be using to protect himself, we'll cover it all. Stay tuned, because what comes next is shocking, revealing, and something every fan and critic needs to see. The truth behind the headlines is about to unfold, and it's far more intense than anyone expected. Pooh Shiesty's life behind bars has officially become one of the hottest topics in hip-hop circles, and for good reason. Sources inside the prison are painting a picture of a rapper who is far from the same confident, street-savvy persona fans see in his music videos. Apparently, the adjustment to prison life hasn't been easy, and those who know the system best are watching his every move with keen interest. It's no secret that prisons operate under a strict hierarchy, with social dynamics that can make or break anyone entering those walls. For someone like Pooh, whose reputation is built on boldness and street credibility, this environment is a massive shift, and the latest reports suggest his learning that the rules outside don't apply here. Even small missteps can escalate into dangerous situations, and insiders suggest that Pooh is quickly realizing that survival in prison is about more than just muscle. It's about strategy, awareness, and alliances. Early accounts from fellow inmates reveal that Pooh has been trying to navigate these dynamics while maintaining his sense of identity. Some say he's been sticking close to those he trusts, forming alliances with other high-profile inmates, and showing that he's not someone to be underestimated. Yet, at the same time, there have been whispers of tension. Correctional officers and inmates alike hint at subtle altercations, moments where tempers flared over territory, respect, or even perceived slights. While none of these confrontations have escalated into full-blown incidents yet, the fact that rumors exist shows just how high the stakes are. For someone whose image is rooted in fearlessness and bravado, Pooh is now learning the fine line between asserting dominance and drawing unwanted attention from the wrong people, which could carry consequences that stretch far beyond the prison walls. But it's not just the internal politics that are shaping Pooh Shiesty's experience. Industry insiders and legal experts suggest that his behavior behind bars could have implications for his career outside. Record labels, collaborators, and fans are all watching closely, waiting to see how he handles this chapter. Any negative reports could influence future deals or partnerships, while moments of resilience and intelligence could reinforce his brand. Sources indicate that he has been surprisingly aware of how actions behind bars translate to public perception, which means that even small incidents, like disputes over privileges or minor rule infractions, can spiral into viral stories that impact his credibility in the music world. In many ways, Pooh's current reality is a high-stakes chess game, where every move has consequences both inside and outside the prison walls. In addition to the social and professional challenges, there's also the emotional toll. Prison life is isolating, and for someone who thrived on attention, collaboration, and community, it can be jarring. Friends from the outside are limited to brief phone calls and visitation windows, which means that he has to manage stress, boredom, and tension largely on his own. According to insiders, this combination of mental strain and the constant need to assert authority has led to moments where Pooh has reportedly clashed with other inmates, sometimes verbally, sometimes physically. It's a stark contrast to the music videos and public appearances where he exudes confidence, charm, and control. Now, every decision carries weight, every action is scrutinized, and every interaction could shape the narrative about him for years to come. Finally, there's the question of long-term strategy. Experts in hip-hop culture and prison dynamics suggest that Pooh Shiesty is at a crossroads. He can either adapt intelligently, earning respect and maintaining his reputation, or risk alienating allies and attracting negative attention. Some sources claim that is already showing signs of the former, seeking guidance from more experienced inmates and carefully navigating tense situations. Others argue that the combination of fame, ego, and the inherent pressure of incarceration could lead to mistakes that might undo years of career-building effort. What's clear is that every move he makes is being watched, not only by those inside the prison, but by fans, critics, and industry insiders on the outside. This delicate balance between survival, strategy, and self-preservation is setting the stage for what could be a defining chapter in Pooh Shiesty's life and career. One that has the potential to shock the music world and reshape public perception in ways few could have predicted. The tension in the prison yard was palpable that afternoon, a thick haze of anticipation hanging over the inmates like a storm about to break. Pooh Shiesty moved cautiously through the corridors, his eyes scanning every corner, every face, every movement. Rumors had already spread about a new conflict brewing between rival groups, and even a small misstep could ignite chaos. For a moment, the usual bravado that fans saw in his music felt distant, replaced by a sharp awareness of his surroundings. He was no longer performing for a crowd or recording tracks in a studio. Every glance, every gesture had consequences, and he knew it. The hum of conversations and occasional shouts echoed through the halls, reminding him that control here was fleeting and trust had to be earned, not assumed. As he reached the recreation area, Pooh noticed a group of inmates huddled near the basketball court, whispering in urgent tones. Their focus shifted the moment they spotted him approaching. It was clear that someone had been talking, and now he was walking into the center of an unspoken challenge. He kept his posture relaxed, not letting his shoulders tense or his gaze waver. Years on the streets had taught him how to handle confrontation, but this was different. The rules were unwritten, and the stakes were personal. A sudden move, a careless comment, or even a misread expression could spark violence. He paused near the edge of the court, pretending to tie his sneakers, giving the others a moment to settle. Tension didn't dissipate instantly, but his calm presence subtly shifted the energy, reminding them that he was not to be underestimated. Later that evening, in the cell block, whispers circulated about an incident in the yard that no outsider would hear. Some inmates spoke in hushed tones about the way Pooh had deflected an attempted provocation without escalating it, a move that drew both admiration and envy. For him, it was a delicate balancing act. Assert enough presence to earn respect, but avoid unnecessary fights that could put him on the radar of the more aggressive figures in the facility. He sat on the edge of his bunk, replaying the events in his mind, weighing choices he'd never had to consider in the same way outside. Each decision was layered with consequence, and as the lights dimmed for the night, he realized that patience might be his most valuable skill. Meanwhile, Tensions outside the prison walls were escalating in ways he could not directly control. News outlets and social media channels were analyzing every minor update, speculating about alliances, disputes, and possible incidents. Friends and associates from his neighborhood sent messages, some for encouragement, others for updates, all reminding him that he was still under the microscope. Even in isolation, the ripple of his presence was felt widely, reinforcing that life here was as much about perception as survival. Inside, he reflected on the delicate interplay of power, reputation, and strategy, understanding that the choices he made today would echo far beyond the cell block. One misstep could overshadow years of careful maneuvering, while one clever move might redefine how people saw him for the future. By the end of the week, it became clear that Pooh Shiesty was beginning to establish a rhythm in this new world. He learned when to speak, when to stay silent, and when to observe. He formed tentative connections with those who respected intelligence over intimidation, realizing that alliances often mattered more than raw strength. The facility, with all its tension and unpredictability, was teaching lessons that the streets never could. Lessons in patience, perception, and calculated moves. As he lay on his bunk late at night, the distant echoes of other inmates drifting through the block, he understood that survival here wasn't about who could yell the loudest or throw the hardest punch. It was about adaptability, resilience, and the ability to navigate a world where every small action carried weight. And with that understanding, a new chapter of his story had begun, one that could shape both his present and his future in ways that no one outside could yet imagine. Night had fallen over the prison, but the tension inside didn't fade with the dimming lights. In the quiet corridors, whispers carried from cell to cell, each voice carrying fragments of stories that grew larger in retelling. Pooh Shiesty could feel the atmosphere thickening as he walked toward the common area, alert to every sound, every shadow. He wasn't just trying to survive anymore. He was starting to understand the subtle politics that governed every interaction. A stray look, a moment of hesitation, or even a seemingly friendly gesture could be interpreted in countless ways, and the wrong impression could spark conflict. His reputation, once tied to his music and persona, now had to be reinforced with every measured step, every carefully chosen word. By the time he reached the common area, a small group of inmates had gathered around a table, exchanging information and testing boundaries. Pooh lingered near the edge, observing the dynamics, noting who held influence and who operated in the background. One inmate, known for his volatile temper, locked eyes with him for a moment, a silent challenge that could have erupted into violence. Instead, Pooh maintained calm, offering only a nod before retreating to a corner. That subtle display of control earned him respect silently, enough for others to recognize that he wasn't someone who reacted impulsively. It was a new form of power, one that didn't come from force but from strategy, patience, and awareness. In that environment, subtlety became more potent than aggression. Later, in the dimly lit recreation hall, a sudden disturbance broke out, a scuffle between two rival groups over a trivial disagreement. The noise reverberated across the hall, drawing attention from guards and inmates alike. Pooh, caught in the periphery, realized he needed to act smartly to avoid entanglement. He sidestepped the chaos, staying low while simultaneously observing who was involved and how the tensions unfolded. It was a lesson in restraint, an exercise in understanding human behavior under pressure. Every movement, every reaction was a lesson in survival. By the time the guards intervened and the scuffle ended, Pooh had already mentally cataloged alliances, tensions, and potential threats. These observations were forming the blueprint for how he would navigate the rest of his sentence. Back in his cell, the weight of isolation hit differently after the day's events. He lay on his bunk, staring at the ceiling, replaying every interaction, analyzing every glance, every conversation. The realization dawned that prison wasn't just a test of physical strength. It was a test of emotional intelligence, adaptability, and foresight. In the absence of music, fans, and the outside world's constant validation, he had to rely on instincts sharpened by street life, applying them in a context that was both familiar and alien. Every move required calculation, Every interaction required thought. The stakes weren't just his safety, they were his reputation, his future in music, and his credibility among peers who watched from both inside and outside the walls. By the end of Part 3, it became evident that Pooh Shiesty was evolving in ways the outside world could not fully comprehend. The pressures, the observation, and the constant scrutiny were molding him into someone more strategic, more aware, and more measured. Each encounter taught him lessons about human nature, power, and the consequences of every action. While some moments had been tense and others frightening, he began to understand the rhythm of prison life, the unspoken rules, and the delicate balance between dominance and discretion. The journey was far from over, but with each passing day, he was laying the foundation for resilience, learning how to maintain authority, and discovering that survival was not merely about who was the strongest. It was about who could think, adapt, and endure the longest. Morning broke over the prison, casting harsh light across the concrete walls and narrow corridors, but it brought little relief. For Pooh Shiesty, another day meant renewed vigilance. The rumors that had been circulating overnight had taken on a life of their own, spreading like wildfire through the blocks. Every whisper carried potential danger. Every glance could be interpreted as a challenge. Even those who seemed neutral weren't entirely trustworthy. Pooh had learned that survival depended on reading intentions, anticipating moves before they happened, and understanding that appearances could be deceiving. His mind was constantly working, analyzing patterns, predicting behavior, and preparing for what could erupt at any moment. In a world where hesitation could mean vulnerability, his awareness became his most valuable weapon. During breakfast in the crowded dining hall, tension simmered just beneath the surface. Inmates exchanged guarded glances, some testing boundaries, others asserting dominance through subtle gestures. Pooh, aware that this was another arena of influence, moved strategically. He chose his seat carefully, positioning himself near familiar faces while remaining in sight of those he needed to observe. Conversation flowed in fragments, some casual, others laced with undertones of rivalry. Each word was measured, each laugh calculated. A wrong remark could ignite conflict, yet silence could be interpreted as weakness. Pooh had begun mastering the delicate art of presence, making sure he was seen, but not seen as vulnerable, respected, but not feared to the point of creating unnecessary enemies. Later in the yard, the dynamics shifted again. A new inmate had arrived, someone known for their reputation and willingness to provoke. Immediately, the air thickened, and subtle challenges began to ripple through the area. Pooh knew that this newcomer could disrupt alliances, spark tension, or even escalate into violence if left unchecked. He observed from a distance, noting the newcomer's movements, assessing their interactions with other inmates, and considering how to navigate any potential confrontations. Patience had become essential. Impulsive reactions could be disastrous. In these moments, he realized that intelligence often outweighed intimidation, and subtle strategy could prevent chaos before it even began. By the time the yard session ended, Pooh had mentally mapped alliances, identified potential threats, and considered ways to maintain control without engaging in open conflict. The afternoon brought another test. A minor dispute over possessions escalated quickly, drawing the attention of guards and surrounding inmates. Pooh found himself nearby when tensions threatened to spiral. He had a choice: intervene, remain neutral, or strategically distance himself while observing. Choosing observation, he allowed the conflict to unfold in a controlled manner, noting reactions and identifying who could be trusted and who might pose a problem later. By staying composed, he avoided drawing unnecessary attention while still demonstrating a level of awareness that others couldn't ignore. This careful balance of involvement and restraint became a defining skill, one that would serve him in the days and weeks to come. As night fell, Pooh returned to his cell, exhausted but alert. The day's event had reinforced crucial lessons. Survival required observation, patience, and adaptability. The prison was not simply a place to save time. It was a living, shifting environment, one where power was constantly negotiated and respect had to be earned continuously. He reflected on each encounter, each glance, each subtle shift in behavior. understanding that the choices he made today could echo for weeks or months. While the outside world continued to speculate about him, inside, he was navigating a complex web of human behavior and strategy. Each day honed his instincts, sharpened his judgment, and strengthened his ability to survive without compromising the core of who he was. By the end of the day, it was clear. Pooh Shiesty was learning to thrive in a world that demanded vigilance, patience, and resilience, skills that would define not just his time in prison, but the man he would become on the outside. The following week, the atmosphere inside the prison seemed to shift subtly. Pooh Shiesty had begun to carve out his place, not through force or intimidation, but through careful observation and measured action. Word of his composed demeanor had begun circulating among the inmates, and even some of the more volatile individuals were taking notice. He was no longer merely a new face to be tested. He was becoming someone whose decisions carried weight, someone who others recognized as capable of navigating the complexities of prison life. For the first time, he felt a sense of control, not over the prison itself, which was impossible, but over how he presented himself within it, and how he responded to challenges. Every interaction was still fraught with potential risk, but he was beginning to see patterns, understand motivations, and anticipate outcomes. During a routine check in the yard, a tense standoff erupted between two rival groups. Pooh, standing nearby, watched carefully. Rather than stepping in physically, he used the moment to assess alliances, gauge trustworthiness, and understand who held influence. Subtle gestures and quick exchanges told him more than words ever could. He observed how the leaders commanded attention, how followers reacted, and how tensions escalated or diffused. In these high-pressure situations, his patience and calculated restraint proved to be an asset. While others reacted impulsively, Pooh remained composed, carefully analyzing the scene. By the time the guards restored order, he had mapped out the social landscape, identifying potential allies and risks for future interactions. Back in his cell, the reality of his situation weighed heavily. Isolation was relentless, and the constant need to maintain vigilance could be exhausting. Yet, he found ways to channel the tension into strategy. Writing became a tool, not just for reflection but for planning. Notes about interactions, observations about behaviors, and potential approaches to upcoming challenges. Every detail, no matter how small, was cataloged in his mind for future use. This methodical approach gave him a sense of control over circumstances that were otherwise unpredictable. The isolation, once a source of frustration, began to feel like an opportunity, a chance to sharpen instincts, build awareness, and understand the subtle art of influence in a controlled environment. As days turned into weeks, Pooh's reputation evolved. Inmates began recognizing him as someone who could navigate the volatile environment with intelligence rather than aggression. Respect came quietly, earned not through fear but through observation, restraint, and strategic interaction. He understood that in prison, influence was not about dominating others but about maintaining balance, knowing when to act, when to step back, and when to assert authority in ways that minimized risk. Even small victories, such as diffusing a minor dispute or earning the trust of an influential peer, reinforced his position. Each success built confidence and credibility, creating a foundation that extended beyond mere survival, shaping how others perceived him and how he viewed himself. By the time Part 5 reached its midpoint, it was clear that Pooh Shiesty had transformed within the walls that had once seemed oppressive. He had learned lessons in patience, strategy, and human behavior that the outside world could never teach. The challenges of prison life, though daunting, had revealed resilience and adaptability he hadn't fully realized he possessed. While the outside world speculated about scandals and behavior, inside, he was quietly mastering the art of survival, forging connections, and solidifying his reputation. The journey was far from easy, and the stakes remained high. But he had discovered a way to navigate a dangerous environment with intelligence, awareness, and discretion. As he lay on his bunk that night, listening to the distant echoes of life in the block, one thing was undeniable. Pooh Shiesty had not only survived, he had begun to thrive, turning challenges into opportunities and uncertainty into strategy.